Hey everybody, Tuesday with Tanya. I'm here with Richard Ferruccio, the president of our Brotherhood of Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invite.
We really appreciate you coming on. I do. I know you're busy, it's an important job, and actually I forgot to even ask you. There's a lot of men and women. There's hundreds. There's so many correctional officers you're overseeing. It's like I forgot to ask you that number. Being a former math teacher, I should have asked you. It's a pretty large number.
Yeah, we have about 1,000 correctional officers, about 1,200 in our union.
Wow.
We are hiring. We're looking for correctional officers every day. The numbers are down. We need more bodies, and it's actually a serious problem. It's a problem across the country. But,
Yeah. I know. Even just in general with this working world, every job opportunities are kind of everywhere. Some people just don't want to work, for lack of a better way to put it. So thank you. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. And so guys, we're gonna delve into more than one thing about Wayne Salisbury. So I should also ask: is he interim director or is he now the director?
He is now the director. He's official.
That's official.
It's official. He was confirmed by the full Senate, and he is now the official director. The interim title is gone.
Okay. But he was interim, for so many months or whatever it was.
He was interim for about 18 months. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Not good. I thought it was official, but I should ask you that too. I might think of something as we go. So not good. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Wayne Salisbury's body language, which is something that I analyzed, and I hope that you all take the time to maybe look at it too, or either you can agree with it, disagree with it. But I think body language. I think your body doesn't lie. It says a lot. So just some things about Wayne Salisbury and some different aspects of this whole thing. But I do want to also give a shout out to Beyond Beauty RI, right in beautiful Ralph Square, right on Ralph Street. So Beyond Beauty RI with Coretta and friends. Hello, Coretta, and she is a nurse practitioner. So it's a medispa. So it's not just a regular spa, but it's like a medical spa as well. She does a variety there, including hair replacement for both men and women, Botox fillers, teeth whitening, a vampire facial. If you watch the video, you can find out what that is. Laser hair removal, liquid liposuction, lashes, and much more. So go check out Coretta over at Beyond Beauty RI. Just wanted to put that little plug out there. And so back to Wayne Salisbury. And guys, if you're watching now on a replay, feel free to drop a comment. Anybody's welcome to comment. So if I were to, so the exact story is there's things against him. Is he a felon? Is this a gray area? We don't really know. But the whole felon thing is he wasn't really fired from Wyatt. Like, why can't we get good answers on this?
I think a lot of the vetting was done by the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers. What had happened was that a couple of months, over a month ago now, we had actually broke the director. We had a couple of bad weeks where we had some things that happened, and we had decided to send a letter to the governor requesting that he do a nationwide search to come up with the best possible candidate for the Department of Corrections. What we got from the governor was Wayne Salisbury was being confirmed. He submitted Wayne's name as opposed to doing a nationwide search. We changed our original request from a nationwide search into, if you're going to put Wayne Salisbury, then please do a thorough background check. The same type of background check that every correctional officer, every law enforcement officer that's going for a job goes through, where they sit back and they talk to previous employers and move on. What happens when the governor kind of refused to do that forced the union to kind of do a background check. And background checks by nature are somewhat personal, and there was some stuff that came up in his personal life that was concerning. He had a family court restraining order. Those are concerning. But I want to get something on the record to make sure people understand this. I have no personal animosity towards Wayne Salisbury. He's kind of a sociable kind of guy, and Wayne would tell you we kind of get along good outside of this place. But inside corrections, he's making a lot of decisions that are going to jeopardize the lives of not just my membership, but also the inmates. And those are the areas of concerns that we raised.
Right. Thank you. And I didn't mean to make you backtrack that, but could it have been like his record been expunged or something, or hidden from the internet? Like, what's your theory on this?
Well, I think what happened was his record was actually, we were thoroughly surprised when he originally got hired here. When he got hired from the Wyatt Detention Center coming here, he had some things in the Wyatt Detention Center that were concerning. He was fired twice. He was criminally charged with taking $16,000 worth of excessive vacation in time, and he actually paid that back. So there was some confusion as to, was he criminally charged? He was criminally charged. The charges were eventually dropped because he paid restitution. You don't pay restitution if you're not guilty of something. So those were some of the concerns. So what happened was when we we were more than prepared to talk about his institutional record here at Corrections in the short time that he was in charge. but it seemed like it got hijacked. It seemed like it got more into his history with the Wyatt Detention Center and some of his personal stuff. But I think it was a double-edged concern of ours. His personal history is a concern, but I think his day-to-day operational stuff was even more concerning to us here.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So even if you put aside this whole criminal thing or felony, or put aside the fact that he was, discharged a couple times, even if you put that aside and that never happened, even just within here, you guys have issues with him.
We have issues. That's where most of our issues are.
Yeah, even just here. So even if we put aside that past stuff, there's still problems. Just want to name off a couple problems that stand out.
I think what I've said, and I've said this to Wayne directly, is that he has the worst correction sense of anyone I've ever met in that position. I mean, we've always had differences with our directors, but never to the level that we've got with this gentleman right now. He's made a number of decisions that have actually just been dangerous or negative in corrections. So the biggest one that we've been talking about is the most recent one, which is the discipline process. Okay. And there seems to be a lot of confusion about the discipline process and how we got here. Right. We used to be the most discipline we could give an inmate if he assaulted a correctional officer, did something pretty serious, was 30 days. That was what most of my career I operated under. We went from that to, we started giving up to a year, 365 days. Well, there was a federal lawsuit filed by an inmate that's at maximum security. In an effort to try and settle this suit, Wayne is actually trying to negotiate a settlement. What the inmate wants is that the most we can give is 30 days in any 60-day period. That's the time that they can get. And some of the other things that were coming in play. Well, those things are concerning to us. We were very concerned. One of the things that I think I want to get on the record is, I started this prison in 1984. And it was a very dangerous place in 1984. And through the efforts of the union working with management, we made this probably the safest, best run prison in the country. And I know that to some people watching this sounds like, oh, they're bragging, but that's not the case. It was truly statistically supported that this is one of the safest prisons in the country. And through some of the decisions that he's made, it has actually set us back to some, I'm starting to see things that are very concerning. We're seeing an major uptick in assaults. So just in the last...
We're seeing inmates against inmates?
Inmates against inmates, inmates against staff. Right. We've seen some pretty serious things that are starting to happen. In the last 2 weeks, we've had... in fact, my vice president was actually just looking at the numbers. In the last 2 weeks, from the 11th to the 25th, we've had 12 assaults and 14 fights in just 2 weeks.
So it's like one a day?
Almost one a day, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. An assault or a fight, one a day. Those are numbers that Wayne will write it off as it happens, it's a prison, but that's not the case. Right. This place, these are serious things that are taking place, and we have some concerns of. Right.
And do you have, thank you, do you have figures from before? Were those numbers much less before he was in charge?
They were. Since he's made these changes. What happened? He came about with these changes. The going from the 365 to the 30 wasn't really the problem. Right. It really wasn't. But what he did is he decided to bring in 3 civilians to do the discipline boards. Right. Prior to that, lieutenants and captains used to do the boards. Okay. So there was an understanding of what was expected of inmates, and there was discipline handed out. Now we see discipline, it's all over the place. Even the inmates are kind of confused because they go to the board and some will get more than others for the same exact charge. It's all over the place. And the most important thing in a prison is to have some rules. Right. And there has to be some accountability. Without rules and accountability, you have chaos. And you get the dangerous prison that this once was. Back in the 80s, in the 70s, you'll hear a lot of the old-time inmates. The inmates ran maximum security. This maximum security is probably the best run maximum security prison in the country because the officers were allowed to take the prison back. And in the early, when Bruce Summerlin ran for governor, we met with Bruce, and one of the things that we had talked about with the governor was we didn't say, hey, we wanted a 20-year retirement or additional benefits. The only thing we asked for is the ability to clean up maximum security, put some staff in charge that were going to let the officers take the building and run it safely because it was an unsafe prison. And Bruce Summerlin made significant changes, brought in George Vose, who came from Massachusetts with this guy, Joe Pond. They made some changes in the administration at Max, and you know what? We took the prison back to make it a safe and a secure prison. And that's what everybody should want. Both inmates families should want that, and I can tell you correctional officers want that. And what we have right now is going in the wrong direction. Right.
Thank you. All right. No, definitely. Definitely makes all sense. Again, guys, I'm here today with Richard Ferruccio, Rhineland Brotherhood of Correctional Officers, union president. And so, and then just not to keep hopping on the background check thing and all that, but even the crazy part is even just to be a volunteer sometimes, just in general in this world, maybe even separate from this whole Department of Corrections, just in the main world out there, many jobs, whether it's jobs in education, medical field, anything, you need a background check, and you need to be able to pass it.
Yes.
Even just to be a volunteer somewhere. So it's pretty alarming that someone who can be in such a high position of authority can just let it slide, and we can just, it's just like, even when an everyday person, I'm not trying to knock everyday people because I'm everyday too, but that we would be required to pass that, but for some reason he gets a free pass. He gets a free.
Well, what they did,
you know what I mean?
There's a couple of different types of background checks. There's a background check that everybody, if you're going to volunteer your daughter's school or son's school, you're going to have a BCI done.
Right.
All the BCI or NCIC does is to find out if you have any state charges pending or any national charges, and looks at your criminal history. Wayne's criminal involvement, his court involvement, was widely recognized. But that's all that they did, we believe. I don't think they did a thorough background. A thorough background means you go back to talk to previous employers to say, hey, what was this individual like? That's what we do right now. Yeah. We're going to hire a correctional officer. We send people to talk to neighbors and previous employees, and we ask them, hey, what can you tell us about this employee? I don't believe that happened. And, the governor could say it did. I don't believe it did, because some of the things that we did in our initial check were very concerning. I don't believe the Governor McKee would have moved forward with Wayne's confirmation hearing based on some of the stuff that we've seen. And we only did a preliminary, surface dig. So it was very concerning. And, we know what happened with the wide detention. That's why we recognize. And unfortunately, some of them got a little personal about the restraining order against them. But there was other things in there that were concerning. And you know what? I think if the governor, again, I'll repeat, if the governor talked to the people that called me and talked to me about some of the issues with Wayne Salzman when he was at the Wyatt, I don't think he appoints him. We really don't. But he is the director now. And we're gonna have to move forward with him. But we have some concerns. I mean, he said all the right things to the Senate. They heard the Senate, confirmation hearing. They said, what's your plans on moving forward? And he said, well, I'm going to work with the union. I think we can get past this. And you know what? He's been confirmed. It's been a couple of weeks. He has not once reached out to us to sit down and talk yet. Because I don't think that's in his. I don't think it's in his makeup.
Right. To do that. Right. And so you're confident in saying that the majority of the correctional officers and even just regular, civilian staff in general, that they are against Wayne.
I guess that's one of those things that's a play on words, but I can tell you, every correctional officer. I work in medium security. There is a one correctional officer that thinks this guy's done the right thing over there. But many of his managers behind the scenes will say they don't support his decisions. But you know what? The problem we run into is that he's a very vindictive guy, and you know what? There's concerns. They don't want to come forward. But I can tell you the majority. I haven't spoken to one correctional officer that says anything good, because every correctional officer sees the breakdown in the discipline process, which is in turn is starting to put this prison in a spiral towards a bad place. We are going in a very dangerous place. There's no accountability for inmates, and you know what? That comes with a price tag.
No, definitely. And I don't hate to say the word few, but it might be true. And I know. So Wayne Salisbury, you might be watching. If you do have a few followers, what would it be that people think so good about him?
Well, I think one of the things I mentioned it at the hearing is we call it the Wayne gravy train, and I know it sounds kind of a little insulting, but I can tell you many of the people that actually testified in his favor got significant raises. One of the women that testified right after me, she got a $42,000 pay raise. Actually $393 raise. There was a gentleman, Jeff Wesson. Jeff worked with him at the Wyatt Detention Center. Jeff left Wyatt to become a sheriff, left the sheriffs to come here as our bug guy, and Jeff got a $34,000, $510 raise. So many of the people that actually testified in support of Wayne were on that gravy train. They got significant raises. One of the individuals that testified said what a good job he's doing. It was him and his wife accompanied Wayne to England on the England trip. That was paid for by the country of England. Which is right now something being vetted by the Ethics Commission. So, I understand that these people came forward because they received significant gains through their friendship with Wayne, and that's not how it's supposed to be. And he's hired a number of these people that have come in from connections either to the military or to the Wise Detention Center that he's given significant pay raises to.
Right.
And these are concerns of ours. These
Right.
are things that we're saying, hey, wait a minute. We have talented people inside, in-house.
Right.
Why are you going out-house? But,
Right.
It's favoritism. You know.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. And I'm just looking at your list. I mean, you have $18,000 change drain. I'll just round it up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of figures here. 33 grand, 31,000. Isn't $5,000 even a lot? That's how I look at it. Even a $5,000 raise would be a lot. So this is like, wow. Should I get to know Wayne myself? I think you might want
to get to know him. But I would.
Wayne, I'm only kidding. But I mean, really, if you see this, someone could get that in their head. Like, oh, I can use the money.
Well, I can tell you it's a concern. It's a real concern of ours. So these are just some of the numbers. We filed a ethics complaint with the Human Resources at the state of Rhode Island to take a look at this because it's a violation, we believe, of the Department of Corrections Code of Ethics policy.
Yeah.
When you hire people that you're friends with, you're associates with, not family. These are people that he's friends with. When we mentioned Jeff Weston, Seth Crosby, these are people that he was involved with. There's a gentleman, Patrick McGuire. He was working for the highway department. He came over here as an interdepartmental project manager. Got a $31,000 pay raise. I mean, this is a lot of money.
This is big numbers.
His personal secretary got a $22,000 pay raise. So. Wayne has advocated for a lot of these people, but they've seen significant financial benefits as a result of their connection to Wayne Salisbury.
Right, definitely. Right. And now this is all taxpayer money. This is all, right?
It's taxpayer money.
Yeah, so taxpayers, I don't know if they're angry or what. Hey there, Bobby. It's Bobby Nicholson saying hi to both of us. Hello.
Hi, Bobby.
And in general, I mean, I'm sure there was someone, it's up to you if you want to mention a name or not, someone within that could have had Wayne's job. Am I right? Like you probably could think of a handful of men, I hate to use the word men, this woman too, but, that probably could have been in his position and been doing the right thing. Do you have some people in mind?
Yeah, there were people here, but I think
that could have done a better job.
I think so, but ultimately our goal was to try and do a nationwide search, to get a true corrections professional in here. What we see here right now with Wayne Salisbury is we believe that he knows his short term. I think he's actually one serious incident away from probably losing his job here. But I don't see him staying here past the next governor. I think the next governor is going to come in, unless it's Governor McKee decides to run again and he wins. I think the next governor will probably clean house and bring in their own people. And even then, the Brotherhood will be here. I'm not sure I'll be here, but I can tell you that when I'm Brother Correctional Officers, even then we'll advocate for a nationwide search to get the best possible candidate. That's all we were looking for.
Right.
And I think Wayne's just looking to pad his resume. I think some of the things that people need to understand is, last August we had a major disturbance here at the maximum security prison. There's not one staff member that agrees that it was resolved correctly, because it was kind of an embarrassment the way it got handled. The story that actually needs to be told is the very next morning, Wayne Salisbury ordered the prison to open up. He wanted the maximum security to open up with normal recreation. The staff refused. They totally refused. I've been in this business for 40 years. I've never seen that happen where the correctional officers refused the director's order to open up the prison. They were not opening up. At the risk of potentially being disciplined themselves, they refused to open up the prison. And it kind of went by the wayside, and it happened. They didn't open up. We opened up next day afterwards, a couple of days later, they opened up normally, and then they had to lock the prison down again, bring in teams to search because things had gone bad. So I've never seen that before. And I don't know what Wayne's answer to it is. When I called him to say, hey Wayne, staff are telling me that they're going to refuse, he actually was looking for our help to get them to open up. I said, I can't help you on that one, because I agree, the staff are 100% right. Understand, there's a major disturbance. He orders them to open up the next day, and they refused. And you know what? I've brought that to the governor, and the governor thinks, nah, it's no big deal.
It's crazy. No, not good. And guys, I'm here with Richard Ferruccio, president of the Brotherhood of Correctional Officers right here in Rhode Island, Department of Corrections. I do want to get into Wayne Salisbury's body language of what I saw in a recent interview with him and Dan York. So we'll get into that. But first, so one of my viewers, Stephanie, hi to Stephanie, has said that I shouldn't be using the word COs. I should be using the word guard. And I just want to say, you know, in the past, I've always heard correctional officers refer to other correctional officers and themselves as COs. I've heard that in the past up to the current day. I never thought to name them guards. You know, the word guard sounds like strong, like, okay, they're a guard, they're a strong person. It sounds like it's a bad word. But she said that was wrong. Do you agree, disagree? What's up with that?
Actually, it's God that's the word that's offensive. Every correctional officer, not just in Rhode Island, throughout the country, the God is the derogatory term.
Okay.
You know, it may have been gods in the 70s. We believe we're correctional officers now. Matter of fact, New Jersey added police correctional officer to their title. But we're correctional officers. It's actually the opposite. All CO is an abbreviation of correctional officer. So it's the opposite. When we're called gods, some people call us gods just to do it on purpose, just to offend. But it's an innocent thing on some people's behalf. Because there is always that perception, they're gods, but
because that's what I feel like.
Yeah, we're correctional officers.
Like they're guarding. Yeah. Like I didn't think of it as offensive, but
it's old school language versus new school. And like we prefer a correctional officer, but actually she's wrong. God would be the offensive term. Yeah. CO is just an abbreviation for correctional officer. So
is it okay to say CO?
It's okay to say CO.
I mean, I hear them calling each other that.
Yeah,
I mean, I know, you know.
Inmates refer to me as CO all the time. I'm a CO Ferruccio. I hear it. You know, every day. I worked last night till 11 o'clock. I heard CO quite a few times in the dining room.
So, right. Yeah. No, I mean, unless if she was analyzing the actual CO, like kind of like calling someone PJ or, you know, like the name Anthony and then you call the person Ant. Like, I hate that, like when people shorten names. Unless if she's, so Stephanie, I don't know if that was it. Maybe she had an issue with the actual shortening of it to a CO.
Maybe. It could be like cops.
Who knows?
You know, police officer can call the cop. I mean,
who knows?
There is that reference. But, you know, I mean,
that's okay. I mean,
for anybody that's listening, you know, correctional officer is the term that we all prefer. You know,
See, I learned something. So thank you, Stephanie. Learned something on that. And so basically, then something came up about a graduation speech at one of the graduation academies that Wayne Salisbury said the same speech at each academy. He said a speech from 5 years ago. I don't think that's a big deal. I think we have bigger issues going on. But do you know anything about that?
No, I agree. I wasn't at the graduation. He said that. But I mean, Wayne is a rehearsed guy. He's been in the business for a while. He's rehearsed. He's fairly well spoken. You know, as I said, you meet him. He's a charismatic guy. Our only problem with him are his corrections decisions are wrong. Yeah. I could do a 4-hour show going over each one of his decisions that he's made, how bad they are. And I can give your listeners and, you know, people that are watching this some concerns. Every time he makes a corrections-based decision, it's wrong, and then he usually doubles down on it. Okay. For example, if you got a minute, I'll explain it to you. I'll give you an example. Something as simple as recruiting and retention. Well, we've had a hard time recruiting correctional officers. The governor wanted 3 classes of 50. We had a class of 12, a class of 13. Not the numbers that the governor was looking for. So what happened was, one of the things that we've seen is a lot of people fail the PT test, the physical test to come in. We use the Cooper standard, which is the standard that's used by every police department. The sheriffs use it. Many fire departments use a variation of the Cooper standard. Well, Wayne came in and eliminated the Cooper standard, came up with the Federal Bureau of Prisons PT test, which we had some concerns with. Because what happens if you have a test and it's a 99% pass rate, well, that's a concern. It's really not a test. Well, Wayne decided that's what he's going to do because he had the right to do it as long as it's a PT test. The problem is, when you talk about doubling down on the wrong thing, he put it inside the medium security prison in the inmate gym. So a couple of things are happening. Now, when we're vetting new recruits, we bring them into a secured prison. We do a BCI on them, so we know they have no criminal charges. But I can tell you, this last academy process, 5 of the recruits that came in to do the PT test had been incarcerated at either the women's division or at the intake service center for a variety of reasons, but were found not guilty. They still were allowed to come in and take the PT test. So we're bringing hundreds of people in from the outside that have not really been vetted into a secure prison. What makes it even more difficult for us is, besides the security lapse, is that the inmates get frustrated because now this is their inmate gym that they can't utilize. So it creates a climate issue. So when I try to tell you, Wayne takes the simplest of things and makes it worse. And that's what he did here. Those are 3 examples. And there's a few other security things that have actually happened with the PT test that I can't say publicly because it would jeopardize even further security. But it's just wrong. And that's something simple. Just the PT test created problems.
Right, something like that. Yeah. Thank you. Let me sit down with me. Hi, Eddie. Eddie Franco's chiming in. Yeah, he's asking if you'd ever sit down with him for a debate. Eddie Franco.
Yeah, of course, anytime, Eddie.
Eddie. Eddie, drop a comment. What do you have positive to say? Because we're trying to come up with something positive. We couldn't really come up with much positive about Wayne Salisbury, but drop a comment. Thank you. That was a good explanation. Thank you for that. And then, so thank you also for this. So, for Rewind, guys, many people have gotten raises and just gotten job opportunities here, not even on the inside, but now they're here, meaning because of Wayne Salisbury. And then right over at Inmate Accounts, a woman who might look a little like me, 20 years there, and didn't get a small promotion. It would have been a small promotion, and they took someone from the outside over at Inmate Accounts. I mean, from what I hear, she's a very nice woman and everything. I don't know. I don't think she was as qualified as someone who's been in the office for 20 years. She was not a state worker, but she wasn't in a state worker in a banking capacity. I mean, maybe she had that experience years ago, but it's true. Someone that's been in there 20 years and doesn't get a job, it takes months or even a year to change, to train. It takes a month or even 1 year to train to even be, to even be in this position. And so this woman did meet with Salisbury, and he came across as arrogant. He said, "Oh, I hardly make mistakes." And he said something like that, Salisbury. I hardly make mistakes. And she got hired, but how? Someone that's been in the office 20 years, would asking for a small promotion, would know more than some outsider. And it's nothing against the outsider. But on occasion I have made a mistake, but I would admit it. And he actually said that to her.
What's frustrating?
It's like
is our governor. One of the things that he made a point of the reason that he selected Wayne Salisbury was the governor said, "Geez, I want to be able to pick from the inside. I have talented people from the inside. Yet Wayne Salisbury's done totally opposite. He's brought in people from the outside. Right. Most of the people that he's brought in all came from the Wide Detention Center. He had connections with them. So some of the people, I only mentioned a handful. There's another gentleman who runs the training academy, Corey Cloud. It really, probably a great corrections officer. But you know what? There were people inside that actually could have done that job. But Corey came over from Wide Detention Center to do the job. There's another person that works in DOA, Lori Pouliot. She worked at the Wide Detention. So what's concerning is when you see all these people with a connection to the Wide Detention Center in Wayne Salisbury getting these powerful jobs, it is concerning. And it kind of contradicts what the governor said. Right. The governor said, "Gee, I want to hire from within." And there were opportunities for these people to get hired. And you know what? We've seen the opposite with Wayne. When he has a chance to go out, house he does. He just did it with a former chief of CCON, former Providence Police Officer, Dean Isabella. Another person that was an outsider that got hired to come in and do a ACA accreditation. For the record, just so anyone that's listening, ACA accreditation is a disaster. The Federal Bureau of Prisons just eliminated ACA or any ties with ACA because they found out it to be a total waste of taxpayer money. It serves no purpose, ACA accreditation. But Wayne hired an outside gentleman who I'm sure he's a pretty sharp guy, but he's got some baggage also. But he came in here to do this ACA accreditation, which is another waste of taxpayers' money. And again, an outsider. There were more than enough people inside that could have took that job up, but they went over it.
Right. No, exactly. And then just another take on this, and guys at home, drop a comment if you agree. Just kind of the bigger picture. Like if you're a person in a job and you're not liked by many people. In this case, he's now the director. So Salisbury is the director with many people against him. So you could be in any job. You could be working in retail, in schools, in medical field. I don't care where you work. But the people at home, just think of where you work currently. And if you're really disliked by a kind of an army of people, why would you want to stay there? That's my question to Wayne. Why would you? How do you feel comfortable? And drop a comment if you agree with me, or if you have an answer to that question. Are they staying because of the money, because of the pension? But there's so many jobs out there today. So I'm sure Wayne could get a job elsewhere like this. I assume. Do you agree with that? He could get a job elsewhere.
Maybe
not paying as good, but
I do think he actually is concerned that so many people dislike him. But I think he's living in I think he is concerned. I think it bothers him. I do believe it bothers him. But he. Wayne, we believe that Wayne's tenure here is going to be short. We think Wayne is looking to pad his resume so that he can get a job at some point, either with ACA, because that's now why we're doing ACA accreditation, or something with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's a tough thing. I mean, some of the, like Dan York, for example, wants to make this a Richard Ferruccio against Wayne Salisbury thing, and it's the furthest from the facts. As I started out this thing saying I had a pretty good relationship with Wayne Salisbury.
At first.
At first. I mean, personally, I have no negatives against him personally. It's all about professional. So only we ask. I'm a corrections officer. I want this to be the safest, best run prison in the country, and it was at one time. We are losing it right now. There are a number of warning signs that right now are being ignored by the management team here, and even to the ex-inmates that are advocating, they should be concerned, because what's going to happen, prison by itself is a predatory place.
Right.
And what we're seeing right now is predatory inmates preying on the weaker inmates, and that's not a good thing. That is definitely not a good thing, and there's been a number of warning signs that are coming up. We just had a situation where a guy went to use a phone and someone told him, no, that's a black only phone at the medium security prison. That guy had to get out of that block because he went to use a phone. I mean, it's just, those are the things that should never happen. And they're starting to happen with some frequency.
Right, which is not good. And so, and I feel like a lot of us, you know, in the everyday world, we either know someone who's either, you know, has an arrest record, whether they went to jail or not. So we're even speaking really on behalf of the inmates and their safety, like we're saying. I mean, because there are many people who have been arrested and have been, you know what I mean? A correctional officer actually told me that one time. He said to me, you'd be surprised the number of people walking around that have served time in this Rhode Island prison, like there's so many people. So we're speaking about a lot of people's families here, a lot of the safety concerns. It's not just about the correctional officers, even though it is, but it's about the safety of the inmates, you know, and there's a lot of them. And don't you believe too, like I'm not saying every inmate is innocent, because obviously they're not, but people do act on emotion. And there's people who are not career criminals and they end up having an arrest record, or they end up having, out of something that had happened, people act on, you know what I'm saying? There's a research that goes with that. Like,
there are a lot of people that make a lot of mistakes in their lives and end up in here. And you know what? We're very forgiving of mistakes. Understand something, Rhode Island does not have a very high incarceration rate. Historically, we're one of the lowest states for incarcerating, you know, inmates in prison. We do have a high probation and parole numbers. So we have a lot of inmates that are on the street that have committed crimes and end up back on the street. And our goal is to prepare them to leave the prison better than they came in. What someone, like, you know, I know Eddie's been on here, but, you know, Eddie Franco's been on this a couple of times, but what Eddie needs to understand is we do not have a safe and a secure prison. What it makes it difficult to do the rehab things that we need to do. And understand something, and make no mistake about it, because Eddie's big comment said, you know, I want to return to the old way of, no, we don't. We do not want that to happen, because I was here when inmates were being preyed on and the predatory inmates ran the show. We don't ever want to see that again. The Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers, Richie Ferruccio, has been an advocate to bring in trades. Our former director, A.T. Wall, he was a guy who believed in education. He thought if he gave everybody a college degree, they could go out and get a job. That isn't necessarily the case. Some people can do that, but others, it's the trades. And for years, I started in 1994 trying to push to get the director to bring in the trades. So an inmate would come in here, learn how to do carpentry, learn how to do tile work, and then we take them out to these homes that are all boarded up, and the inmate practices that skill, perfects that skill. Those are the things that we supported, and here we are. It's, you know, I brought this in the 90s. It's you know, it's still not happening in 2024. And you know what? We support it. I'd like to see us go in that direction. And maybe you know, Wayne has mentioned that he's looking to do some of that. Hopefully we can get that up and running. But it is difficult to do if you don't have safe and secure prisons, because these other things get in the way.
Right. No, it does. No, you're right. Thank you. And that would be a good idea with the trades, and definitely all makes sense. And so yeah, guys, drop a comment if you want. I'm sorry, some of the comments actually skipped, so I think I did miss some that were coming in. But just wanted to also say about the whole body language thing. So, all right, so the behavior panel is this panel of men. They're on YouTube. They're called the Behavior Panel. Check them out if you want. On YouTube, men that are in their 50s and up. They're former police interrogators. They've written books on body language. They're very educated in body language, and just every little thing in motion you make with your eyes, with your mouth, with your, you know, movements, right? I just know some basics because I'm self-taught from them. I can't look at someone and fully say, hey, they're lying, or, you know, I mean, I guess all of us can, but can't. But meaning, I'm not a true body language expert, but I will say the body doesn't lie. And of the basic things that I know, you know, and even if some of you watch that interview with Dan York, and I encourage you to watch the interview with Dan York and Wayne Salisbury, even if you know nothing about body language, if you just watch it, even maybe if you're not a Rhode Islander and you're watching it, you can just see, like, there's just something's just off. Comment if you agree or disagree. There's something off about his behavior, about his presence. He doesn't seem trustworthy. I feel bad saying that, but it's the truth. Dan York is an advocate of Dan McKee. So right there, if you have Dan York and Dan McKee, the two Dans, I guess, you know, you have them two as friends. So by Dan York having Salisbury on, that should be an easy interview, because that's, and Salisbury's still showing me signs of discomfort, lying, uncertainty. He's showing me, but this should be an easy interview for you, Wayne. And I know Wayne would never sit down with me, because I would have the legit questions that he probably either doesn't want to answer or can't answer or whatever. Wayne, if you want to sit down with me, you're welcome to. I mean, I doubt he will, because he probably knows I'm more of a straightforward. I mean, I try to take every angle on everything, but he shouldn't be showing any signs of that. And it's also, again, if you're not a body language, person, he just, how he came across to me, at least in that particular interview. So maybe I'm getting just one look at him, but still, Salisbury came across as just not likable. Something about him, the way he was responding to the questions, he gave me that vibe. You can drop a comment, guys, if you agree, disagree, check out the interview. You don't even have to watch the whole thing, but he gave me that presence of just someone who's not too likable. He kept doing this in particular too. This little mini, like this, he answers a question, and he's talking like this, and he goes like this a couple times. Shoulder shrug. That slight little thing, that counts. If you're a body language expert, when you see that, it means uncertainty. And if you're going to be a leader of a department, you shouldn't be uncertain. There shouldn't be an uncertainty in your behavior, Wayne, if you're a leader of this department. It also indicates deception and lying. So that's one thing. He did say one thing that did match, and that, which I don't even care about, to do with his marriage, which I don't find important, unless there was a piece where that's important, something with his wife or whatever. And he said, no, he said, she didn't work there, or he said something at one point where he said something no to her, but again, I don't think she's any issue of what's going on here right now. So I'm able to separate that, unless if you think there is a connection.
No, there is. And you know what? It became unfortunate for us because we had to raise some things. Yeah. But his wife was the former CFO of White Detention Center when he was there. And if you read the FAIR report, it kind of paints a kind of a bad picture. That's all. Yeah. And what really was really frustrating for us is at the confirmation hearing, we had submitted a lot of documentation, which includes this report that was done at the White Detention Center. Yeah. And if the General Assembly had taken the time to read that report, right. I think they would have had some additional questions to ask, or they would have been concerned. The only guy that seemed to get it right, in my opinion, was Senator Raptakis. He had said, let's put this on hold until September, and we can come back and I thought Senator Raptakis actually got it right, but we knew once he was going for a hearing that it was a done deal. This wasn't the Round Brother of Correctional Officers against Wayne Salisbury. It never was that. Right. This was the Round Brother of Correctional Officers against apparently Dan McKee. Right. And this was a political, power play, I guess, on the governor, and because the governor made it very clear. In many of the interviews, he said to me, that, I think Richie overplayed his hand and made it personal. And this wasn't us playing a card game, Governor. We were very concerned about ethics, and we were really concerned about operations of the facilities, and that's what it was about. And if the governor, when I met with him 9 months ago, and we laid some of our concerns, if he was actually serious and his people were doing their job, I think they would have sat down with us to hear what our concerns were before they made this move to do the confirmation. But they didn't care to. Now, unfortunately, Governor McKee owns the things that are happening here, and we believe that things are going to start to get pretty scary. We've already seen it. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen some things that have that are causing us to even take pause right now. So hopefully I'm wrong on this one. We're not going to have a really dangerous bad summer, but it's starting to look like it's heading down that path.
Right. And thank you. And then people disagreeing. I mean, someone's chiming in and saying that one person was the only no vote about saying no to Salisbury. But is that accurate?
It is. Well, he was the only in the committee, but the governor. Yeah. The governor called every one of those senators. Yeah, the governor did, or his people called every one of them to say, "Hey, what are you doing?" I can tell you, senators were pressured that if they didn't vote, that their legislation would die. So it was kind of politics were a dirty game. Yeah. That's what this was. This was political. This was politics. This was a Democratic governor not wanting to lose a confirmation hearing at a Democratic committee. Right. And I can tell you that once the Senate leadership cut the deal with the governor, it went through. One of the individuals that showed up was a former correctional officer that had some information that he wanted to provide. He was given 3 minutes. He never got a chance to put his facts out. So the General Assembly, the Senate, said, "I'll give it to us," but they already had voted. They already voted, but he didn't get a chance to put what his concerns were. Right.
That's not even fair.
And this is a gentleman that had some serious interactions with Wayne Salisbury. Right. At one point, taped Wayne saying, "Hey, it's not about doing the right thing." So he had a presentation that he wanted to put forward, but he wasn't allowed to do it.
Right. See.
So
But that's wrong.
So we
That's
say
wrong.
that the senator attacks was the only no. He wasn't a no against Wayne. He was a no. Hey, let's take some time to vet this a little deeper. That's all he was looking for. And I actually think he was right. I think he was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you know what? It was political.
It's
And
unfortunate.
this wasn't the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers versus Wayne Salisbury. Unfortunately, it became a Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers against Governor Dan McKee, and that shouldn't have been that.
Yeah.
But that's what it came out to.
Right.
And that's why the attack from Dan York, because I thought it was personal. You know,
Yeah.
Dan said, I've interacted with other corrections people in the past, and Richard made this personal. It was never personal with us in Wayne Salisbury. It really wasn't.
Right.
Like I said, prior to him being appointed, I still get along with him. I think he's a very sociable guy. He'd probably come on your show. He'd probably do it. He's sociable, but he thinks he's right, and the problem is he's not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And thank you for being. You know, I feel like you're being fair about it. Like you're not totally trashing him, but there's just a better fit. There's someone better than him to take this role. Like you said, nationwide search. I mean, that wasn't a lot to ask for.
We don't think we were asking being unreasonable to say, hey, let's do a nationwide search.
Yeah.
Whoever you come in, and if Wayne was the choice in a nationwide search, then we'd say, hey, you know what, he was the guy.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And like I said, the most important thing is that there was a thorough background investigation.
Yeah.
The same type of background that our correctional officers that are going to be starting this next academy are going through.
Right.
And that, I can tell you that did not happen.
Right.
So if they want to say it did, I can tell you I don't believe it did. I don't think it did, because if it did, I don't think the governor says his name personally.
Right.
But
Yeah, no, exactly. No, definitely. And so yeah, just back to a little bit with the body language. He mentioned something about his wife or former wife, I forget exactly. And he said no about something to do with that situation, but he did not shake his head no at the same time. So that was something where his body language matched, but again, that's not to me something important. But some people say no, but they so just a little lesson on body language. You could say like, no, that never happened, and do a slight little meaning yes. You gotta meaning people have said that in denial of things. And I'm just saying he did shake his head in the right way, but again, I didn't think that was something really important. This constant thing, this shoulder shrug, he should not be uncertain, he should not be saying lies. He did say something like, we were hoping, Salisbury said this now, we were hoping that, that everybody would work with us, everybody meaning, I guess, the Brotherhood, would work with us and accept the change, accept something new. And he just had this look of disgust on his face. If you really look at his face structure, he had a look of like I'm disgusted with them because they didn't, follow suit with me or whatever. He had a look of disgust there. And then he said something about razors with the inmates.
Yeah.
And I don't believe him. He said something about the artwork. He's like, oh yeah, they ended up discovering afterwards it was they needed it to sharpen pencils for artwork. That doesn't sound believable.
What had happened was,
Even though there's maybe some artists in the prison, I'm not saying there's not.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Yeah.
What he took out of character, as did Wayne, as did Daniel.
Yeah.
I was asked a question by I think Channel 10. Hey, why now? Why did you do it? And what happened? I said we had several fights that happened this week, and there was a cache of weapons found. But what happened? The cache of weapons was 12 razors that were separated from the blades. 12 razors.
Yeah.
So for Wayne Salisbury to kind of blow it off to say, well, it was just for the inmate to sharpen his pencils or to do here. I've seen many inmates sliced. Matter of fact, they show a video at the academy where an inmate was sliced on the back with a razor. We had a correctional officer who actually had his throat sliced at the high security with that same type of a weapon. So for Wayne to say, well, it was just to sharpen pencils was baloney. If he had one, maybe you could say, hey, but when you have more than one, you have over a dozen of these razors collected. That's a concern.
Right.
And it wasn't. It was only to answer a question of why we decided to send that letter. We had a really bad, just like we did now, the last 2 weeks. We've had all these fights, all these 12 assaults, 14 fights in 2 weeks.
Right.
That's what was going on when we decided to send the letter. But they're hopping on. Well, it wasn't really a cache. Well, I can tell you, it's a very dangerous weapon, and we have a correctional officer that was alive today just because of the grace of God. Because he went to uncover an inmate and he reached up with this razor they had and sliced his throat, and he almost died. He almost died at the high security. This was years ago. That was years ago. Yeah, that officer ended up leaving here to go actually become a sheriff, and then he's since retired from the sheriff. But he almost died. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Wayne tried to say, well, the union's blowing things out of proportion. We're not blowing things out of proportion.
No, not at all.
And you know what? We will. I hope I'm wrong, but I can tell you, just the other day I was talking to a group of correctional officers from the High Security Center, and extremely frustrated, and they're telling me they're thinking about not opening up.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that's concerning to us.
Yeah.
We don't want these wildcat situations where staff are saying, "Hey, we're done, we're fed up, and that we're not getting support from management." We don't want that. So we have a scheduled labor management. We try to meet once a month with sometimes I'm hoping Wayne will be there, but I don't know. And we'll raise some of these issues with them this week coming up.
Right. Thank you. And I mean, just me not even, thank you for explaining the razor incident, because me just being an outsider, not even knowing exactly what he's referring to, it did sound false just by watching the way he explained it. And then when he was done saying, "Oh yeah, it was sharpening pencils for artwork," he went like this. Like he keeps doing this inward motion of his lips, like he does. I can't even do it, but he puts like an inward. That's a sign of withholding information. So he's withholding information. He did that more than one time. And guys, if you don't believe me, pull up the interview, Dan York and Wayne Salisbury. He's gone like this on more than one occasion. That is a sign of withholding information. And even if you don't believe me, why is there a reason to do that? Think of it that way for those of you who don't believe in body language, because I know some people don't believe in that. Because there are gray areas that come with body language. You know, there's sometimes that could even mean something else that I'm not aware of, because I'm not an expert. You know, I mean, I just know the basics.
You're going to be analyzing my body language now.
No. But yeah, and I said, I think that's a lie. But don't they have access to a pencil sharpener? Because I know there are some artists in the prison. Don't they have access to a pencil sharpener? They wouldn't need to go through this extreme, or would they?
No, they wouldn't need to. There's pencil sharpeners.
That's what I mean.
They can buy pencil sharpeners.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
These are potentially very dangerous weapons.
Yeah.
Like I said,
exactly.
if you have a dozen or more of these in a
that's alarming.
They can be used to hurt a lot of people.
Right.
Like I said, we've seen it.
Right.
I've been here for 40 years. I have seen some really serious damage done by razors.
Right.
Because what happens, you don't expect it. It's one of the more dangerous things. So if
Yeah.
you really want, you take a little bit of time and you melt it into your toothbrush. Now you have the same type of weapon that was used on the 9/11. They used box cutters. That's what you're basically creating. So for a corrections officer, razors are a real scary thing. You know, and it should be scary for inmates and inmates' families to say, "Why did this guy have these open razors?" So it's a problem. It's a concern.
I didn't like that he said that about the artwork, and again, to me, he didn't present that well. He appeared not likable. I'm trying to be kind, but he didn't appear too likable. And like I said, to be sitting next to Dan York, who probably should be on Wayne Salisbury's side, and he still was showing signs of uncomfort, I just said, then how would he sitting next to someone who's really gonna, hammer him with questions or just whatever, it's interesting. But yeah, that kind of sums it up. Unless you had anything else, I was gonna say more about what's coming up next on my page. But anything else we missed, or trying to think, any other last points?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. I mean, like I said, from the very beginning, it really has never been personal with Wayne Salisbury. It might have appeared that way, but when we kind of were forced to do the background check, as I said in the beginning, background checks by nature are personal. So I would prefer to talk about the issues that are relevant in corrections, because I could probably spend a couple hours about the things that Wayne has done that are concerning to us. But ultimately, our goal is to try and move forward. He's the acting director, and hopefully he starts to. Hopefully it's the truth.
Right.
What he told the Senate is, I want to work with the Brotherhood. I'm looking to work together with them. But you know what? It's been 2 weeks. He has not reached out once to call us. Right. Working together means you sit down and you try to reach out. So maybe he's counting that, showing up with the labor management, and we're going to have this big working relationship after that. But we haven't seen it. The staff, my staff up here in the office, we don't think it's in his plans in the future.
To do that.
It's a makeup, and you know what? And it's too bad. But we'll see. I mean, I'll hold out to say, hey, maybe there is a plan to work together. But just yesterday, they had a company come in, out of state company to do that. We got this grant for. And one of the things that they scheduled was to meet with the union. But they don't call us to set up the meeting. They set it up on my day off, where I'm working. I was actually working in the prison yesterday on my day off. My vice president was working in the prison. My other vice president was off. I mean, you could say, I set up to meet with the union, but the union wasn't available. You got to kind of coordinate with them. Can't do it on our days off when we're not available.
You think that's intentional?
Yes. That was intentional. They can say, well, we tried to meet with the union. We had a time period yesterday for this group, and they never showed up because we weren't here. I was at meeting security. Right. And if they'd come to a meeting and said, hey, can we talk to you, Richard, about a couple of things? I'm always willing to sit down and talk to anybody.
Right, exactly. No, thank you. And then just in case if anyone's watching who is one of his supporters, I just want to put this out there too. Even if it was personal, what you're saying, it's not. Mm-hmm. Let's say someone's watching this and is like, oh, I don't believe Richard. It is pretty personal. Like, I don't believe you. It is personal. Well, then the reply would be, then how do you explain everything that's been going wrong? Like, even if it was legit personal, you knew each other back in the 80s or something, which I know you didn't, but I'm just saying, even if it was that, there's so much, and there's so many raises, and there's so much that has gone down, that alone should show you that even if it was personal, it shouldn't matter at that point. Like, you have enough evidence that, like, there's problems.
Yeah, I mean, just
so it has nothing to do with you. No offense, but it really doesn't. Even if someone might think that, it doesn't matter because there's enough to prove there's much more going on.
Yeah, I'm the spokesman for the union, so I'm the spokesman for the correctional officer. So if this it's going to be it's going to be generated towards me, and I can handle it. I'm elected by the membership. If the membership doesn't think I'm doing a good job, they can vote me out of office the next time. We run for office every 2 years. And, I don't think that's the case. Every single officer I've talked to has basically come up and said thank you for putting the word out and raising the concerns. But you know what? Their officers are pretty frustrated right now.
Right.
And we're seeing things happening, and correctional officers are getting ordered over in unbelievably bad numbers. Like ordered over, and some people understand. So anybody listening, you come in to do your 8-hour shift. And then you know what? You get told before the end of your shift that you have to stay for another 8 hours. Right. And if you refuse, you're subject to discipline up to including termination. And that's not the way to run a prison.
Yeah.
And that is happening on a regular basis. Correctional officers are getting frozen in. There was hundreds of times. At high security last year, our 11 to 7 correctional officers were frozen in an average about 45 to 50 times. Right. Over the course of the year, which is ridiculous. Right. That's an extra forced locked in shift.
Right.
And that's not how we should be running.
No, not at all. So, no, because you need to feel, strong for your shift too, and be awake and alert. And you might have an appointment, a doctor's appointment or something. Now you're missing that, or you might have kids at home. Or
I can tell you, someone who's been frozen. I've been frozen in, I think, 3 times so far this year. But one of my vice presidents, he's at 6 so far just this summer. 6 times frozen in this summer.
Oh, okay.
Just in the last,
couple of weeks.
Last couple of weeks, I've been frozen in 6 times.
Wow.
And it's pretty difficult.
That's a lot.
Because what happens, you try to make plans, and then you have something going on Friday night, you can't. Well, the 11 to 7 has been the worst. Right. Because those guys are coming in and do their job, and then they're being told you can't go home, and you have to stay another 8-hour shift. And like I said, those are some of the problems that we're seeing right now, and it is bad. That's not how you run a prison.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I just thought of something else. I can't remember exactly which part of that interview again. One more body language thing. Because he said something about, how did it say? Something was said like, he's like, well, this happens in every prison. And I don't know if it was maybe just this whole thing of, you guys not agreeing with Salisbury. He said something to Dan York as if to say, well, this happens like in every prison, and he's going like this, and he's shaking his head no. Like he's saying something that's positive, like this happens in every prison, So again, it doesn't match. So you're saying something that you're trying to show is truth, but you're nodding your head slight no, meaning it doesn't happen in every prison. You're just making that up on the spot. So, and I forget what point of the interview that was in. Yeah, but he did shake his head no. So there was, if you even catch snippets, there's info there. I'd like a real body language person to really analyze him, not someone like me.
Our whole problem is we just want a safe prison. Yeah. You know what? And that's what some of the people need to understand. Mm-hmm. Our ultimate goal is I want my brother and sister correctional officers, I want my friends, my family, I want them to be able to go home at night. Yeah. And if you know what, the job's becoming that much more dangerous, and there's a risk of that not happening, then that's a problem. That's an area of concern for us. Yeah. And if your loved one's here as an inmate, you should be concerned. Predatory inmates are already starting to prey on the weaker inmates. And what will happen then, if the correctional officers don't have the ability to manage the prison, then what will happen is the gangs will get established. They'll start to reestablish themselves. We're going to have the heavies that are going to start calling some shots. And we're already seeing some of these things taking place. We've seen an uptick in gang violence. There was a big situation at Max a couple of weeks ago between 2 rival gangs, and who was going to be the stronger gang, so to speak. Not the way to run a prison. And we've done a great job for the past 20 plus years of maintaining control, and it is slipping, and it's slipping bad. So I know a guy like Eddie Franco comes on and says, because Eddie believes that the sex offenders should be treated fairly, but in this prison we treat everybody the same. In most prisons, if you're a sex offender, you cannot live in a block with other inmates, but committed other crimes. And you know what? In Rhode Island, we have sex offenders living next to gang members, living next to murderers, living next to people that have done B&Es. Everybody living together, and you know what? We don't have those problems. But if this place starts to go like we're seeing it, you're going to see more and more predatory responses.
Yeah.
Weaker inmates getting bullied, getting picked on, getting shaken down, and it's already started.
Yeah, that's scary though. That's very scary. Very, very scary. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Thank you. It's very informative. Really, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Seriously, thank you for
That's it.
everything. Thank you. And like and share. Tell your friends, guys, about this. I will be coming on maybe next week or not. It might happen before then. Just putting a post up about the Product Club over in Cranston. The Product Club, I do support them and their members. I had a little interesting story outside of there, so have some interesting things with that. So just stay tuned to the page and like and share.